You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hey, Dad, this is Pinky, and you're listening to the Grawlix podcast with me. Brandon's not here right now because he's the stupid one. I'm smart and listening to the Grawlix podcast. No.
This is Jesse, and in the future, when the President of the United States wants to pardon someone, he will first have to win that year's Royal Rumble.
This is Randy. In the future, I'm not buying cars from Craigslist anymore. Welcome to the Grawlix podcast, episode number 52.
Two.
We've got it. Jesse, we have a super show today.
Do we? Good.
Do.
Is it because we're talking about Superman?
Yes.
Is that why?
Yeah, that's it.
That's why. Good.
That's what does it.
Oh, man, I thought I was missing something.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Superman, the at this time current volume of Superman, issues number 1 through 6. What volume do they call it? I see it listed as volume 2016.
Oh goodness me, I don't even know.
I think it might be volume
at this point. It's like volume.
3.
Yeah, probably volume. Well, yeah,
it's
I don't even know if they bother with volumes anymore. They probably have to, but yeah, it's probably like 2016 volume.
Yeah, it's the Rebirth series. We're gonna discuss issues 1 through 6 because we want to.
Yeah, that's the thing we want to do.
Right. And unlike what we'll talk about next episode, this is superhero parenting done right.
yeah, right. Yeah.
So we're recording a little bit late, so no Melanie today. But that's okay. She's not a huge Superman fan. I would have been curious to hear what she had to say about this because I think parts of, and we'll get into it obviously, but I think parts of this first arc, I think she would enjoy because it's just good. But then, if I recall correctly, it does hit some cheese, and I don't know how much she would enjoy some of the cheesier aspects. Or
I love some of the cheese though, like that last issue. I mean, when we get into it, there's some stuff there. It's like, oh my God, when you say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous. But in a Superman comic, it's not. It's just like normal.
Oh yeah. And they just they dive into it. They dive into the love of Superman.
I think that's what I like so much about it too, is that it is like a rebirth, you know. It is going back to some of those campier, fun things about Superman, while being true to who that character was pre-New 52.
Did we read issue 7? Did you read issue 7?
I only have 1 through 6.
Okay, well, I think the story pretty much, the story is considered like part of that arc, but it's really kind of a coda. Like it doesn't continue the story necessarily. So
okay,
you're not really missing anything.
So an epilogue issue or whatever.
Basically, and it is like a super we love Superman type issue.
Yeah. We're so glad you're back.
Yeah, it's just like exactly. It's like it's fun, and this is gonna be Superman fun. All right. How about some in-house news first off? What do we got? I know we got some good stuff.
We do. Well, most recently, probably the most important in-house news thing is that we guested on the awesome podcast, Make Dad Read Comics with Patrick.
Yeah, that was great.
That was a lot of fun, yeah. It's weird because it's like we've kind of conversed back and forth with Patrick for years, but this was the first time we actually talked to each other. And it's one of those weird situations where it's like it's like you know them already, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel weird. It felt like, I mean, maybe there was probably some awkward silences that you have in any conversation, but it just felt like we'd been podcasting forever.
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about it. That was the first time either of us really talked to him.
Yeah. With our actual voices.
Yeah. With our, with our real sound making voices.
Our real human voices.
Yeah, in audible ways.
Not filtered or compressed or anything.
Yeah, that's a good point because I didn't even think about it. Sure, it was a little awkward because but you've listened to the, not like you listen to the show and then you know the person, but I've listened to the show enough that it wasn't like I was like, yeah, okay, talking to Patrick.
Yeah. Well, and even to the degree like I knew certain things going in, so I even like stacked the deck in terms of what we talked about because I listened to the show and know like what are the things that he likes and doesn't like, and yeah, and I thought, well, let's go with the stuff he doesn't like because that's conversation.
It's true. You can't have a good story without some conflict.
That's right.
Yeah, and so that we talked about Batman, A Lonely Place of Dying, and I do like I like the brief summary he has for that episode. It just is Robin issues. That's what it says. Robin
issues. I didn't catch that. That's awesome. Perfect.
Yeah, and if you, I'm sure people probably know, but that was the introduction of Tim Drake.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan. You guys less so. Yeah, not to say that you weren't a fan. Like of the story or whatever. But yeah,
no, that was a great pick because you are a fan. Tim Drake is your Robin,
right? I go totally into it in that episode. So,
and Patrick is not any kind of Robin fan, and I, for the most part, wasn't any kind of Robin fan. But the one arc that kind of like sold me on Robin, or at least like got me to accept, like, okay, I can deal with Robin, was that arc. So yeah, no, you picked it perfectly. Sure.
Yeah, it's a great show. It's a great conversation. You guys should definitely check that out. You can find him on Stitcher or iTunes at Make Dad Read Comics. I think he has a website too. It's like blogs, like makedadreadcomics.blogspot.com, I think.
And it's episode 219.
So yeah, thank you to Patrick for having us on the show. Hopefully Dad is recovering from his surgery. We hope to hear from Dad on the show soon. Mm-hmm. But we really enjoyed having the opportunity to guest. So
how awesome is that? In that was the same month, wasn't it? In the same month, we got to play an audio clip from both Patrick and his dad, and then we got to be on Make Dad Read Comics.
Oh man, yeah. It was kind of the month of Make Dad Read Comics for us.
We've mentioned the show before, but if you still haven't checked it out for some reason, you definitely should.
Also, we have been partaking in the SCS challenge, the hashtag SCS challenge on Twitter with the Superior Comic Show. They put out basically a topic, and then people can either just tweet in their answers or you can do a short video. And I've been doing the videos like it's kind of like the sequel to the 30-day comic challenge that we did. Mm-hmm. And you chimed in with some videos on that original challenge, as did I, and we've both been putting out videos for this one as well.
Yeah, talking about comic stuff, because the YouTube channel, I feel bad sometimes because it doesn't get a whole lot of. I mean, it does. It gets all our normal content, but at least the stuff that I do for the YouTube channel, it's different for the stuff you do, but it's not always comic related, so I kind of feel bad sometimes. So yeah, no, it was good to chime in with some actual comic discussion.
And you had some great answers too. I mean, like you come from a different perspective than a lot of the people in the group, and you make a point of pointing that out. But I mean, but I think fairly, justly so. So
and try not to sound too sour about it.
Right. No, you're just schooling them childrens on the DCs of the world.
Oh, man.
And I've found myself chiming in with more DC answers lately too. Like today, I actually went full on indie with my answer. So if you guys are interested in lots of different topics revolving around, like everything from who's your favorite villain to what's the best underdog story to who's your favorite couple in comics, then we've got videos and we've got responses. You can check out the hashtag SCS challenge on Twitter, or you can check out our videos on our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And we put in the links. We talk about the things. You can see him and hear him. Yeah.
No, yeah, it is pretty awesome.
Man, they have a robust conversation. I mean, like we'll even talk about it maybe later. You know, I mean, like their community is strong. Their community game is on point. So you said this Spider-Man. It's not even Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Do you want to be a spider buggy Superman? So this run of Superman it started in 2016.
2016. Yes, it's the it had the Rebirth banner on it. It's the Rebirth volume or series of Superman.
So this would have come out right after the DC Rebirth special, where we see basically the aftermath of New 52 Superman's death, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I guess that kind of sets up this book a little bit, just in that like establishing, well, what would it be called? I guess it's pre-New 52 or pre-New 52 Clark Kent.
They're really not telling us, because they've been hinting ever since DC Rebirth that this Superman is not who he thinks he is. Who do you think you are, Clark Kent? Are you Clark Kent? I know Clark Kent, and you, sir, are no Clark Kent.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about issues 1 through 6 of that. Now, when that happened, I started reading this and Action Comics. And Action Comics, like, it got to a point where this Superman, pre-New 52 Superman, was running around with and battling Lex Luthor, playing his version of Superman. And then all of a sudden there was a whole nother Clark Kent, like a Clark Kent there. And I'm just like, wait.
Oh, I remember hearing about this. Yeah. And he's just Clark Kent. He's like not powered at all, that we can tell.
Yeah. And I'm sure that has come to some type of conclusion now, but I did not stick around for it. I was like, what? Nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. And and Superman was so good. So I was enjoying it so much. So I was just like, Action Comics, you guys do your thing over there. I'm going to chill over here with Superman and Super Son.
And Super Son. So yeah, what's the setup for Superman?
All right, so Superman. This is written by Peter J. Tomasi, and is it all written by? Okay, well, the thing I'm looking at here lists issues 1 and 2 written by Peter J. Tomasi, and 3 going forward by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, and penciled by Patrick Gleason, with occasional issues penciled by Jorge Jimenez.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah,
and Doug Mankey.
So Gleason is double duty on writing and art. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Oh yeah, and I think the reason I initially, before we really get into like what it is, the reason it caught my eye to begin with was that Patrick Gleason, Peter J. Tomasi team up. I became a big fan of that creative team specifically because of their run on the New 52 Batman and Robin. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, if they're going to do a similar type book with Superman and his son, that sounds interesting to me. Actually, Patrick Gleason's also had a run on, what was the name of the book? It was the Robin book, but it was, what was the name of it? It was Damian running around.
Oh, yeah. I remember when it came out. I don't know what it's called, though.
It wasn't Robin. It might have been Son of Batman or some other.
I think that sounds right, like Son of Batman.
Yeah. And that was actually, and he wrote and did the art on that, and that was pretty good. So, Superman. So this is basically, like we said, it's pre-New 52 Superman, Clark Kent, in the modern current universe. They're playing it pretty close to the chest as to like how or why that, or they kind of revealed it in earlier episodes. And for the most part, he's been keeping it like he's been playing it low key. He's been he has a wife. It's Lois, right? It's pre-New 52 Lois Lane.
Yeah, well, it feels like it's time jumped a little bit. Like there's things that have happened for pre-New 52. It's so weird to say. Okay, so it's it's like we've missed something with this pre-New 52 Superman. Like he's been off doing things, and like his life has progressed, and it's him and Lois, and they've been like they were married, and now they have a son.
Yeah, John.
And that didn't exist pre-New 52, did it?
No, I don't think so.
So we've gotten some development since then. So it's not just like they're picking up where they left off. It's we've gotten a little bit more, but we're led to believe that this is that same Superman, and he seems like he is. He's just got more to his life now.
I want to say at certain times it seems like they've been in the New 52 universe for a while, just laying low until the current Superman. Like the New 52 Superman was killed or whatever happened to him.
Right.
And yeah, their son John is, what do you figure? 8? Is that too old? 8? Is that too young?
He's pretty young, but 8 sounds about right, because 8 would make him like a first or second grader. Mm-hmm. So second grade, I could see, maybe even third grade.
Yeah. And they're living on a farm in, where is it here?
Is it Kansas? That'd be too on the nose, wouldn't it?
It's 300 miles north of Metropolis.
Okay.
He's going by the name of Smith. So the Smith farm. Yeah, I can't recall if they're doing Kansas or not. But I mean, it could be. It looks like it.
Right.
Looks like a little Smallville type farm.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Like the setup for them having a family on the farm.
I think it's interesting. I mean, if Superman's gonna lay low and like have his family and raise his son and all that, it makes sense that he would kind of raise him in a Smallville type upbringing like he had.
Sure, kind of like Jonathan did for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, I suppose even the like with Connor Kent, who is the clone of Superman and Lex. So this is pre-New 52. Also, he sent. He being Clark sent Connor to live with his folks in Smallville for that exact same reason, to give him that upbringing.
And well, I mean, even we were reading Kingdom Come a while back, talking about that on the show. And even though it wasn't real, it was a virtual situation. Like Wonder Woman tracks down an older self-exiled Superman, and he's in like a virtual
Kansas
farm.
Yeah. His augmented reality Kansas.
He's doing farm work for no reason, because it's virtual reality.
Right. Well, he doesn't need the crops, I guess.
No, yeah, I suppose not.
I just need to lift heavy hay bales and tractors.
Yeah, like
it's what I do in my free time. I like to pick them up.
This first issue of the 6 is fantastic. We don't have to go too much into it, but it quickly. It moves so fast. It quickly establishes, the farm life and this and that. And he's still obviously Superman because there's a barn fire and he's got to save a pony and stuff. It very quickly establishes all that, and then gets to John. The focus is very much from his son's perspective.
Oh yeah. Well, and he's just learning about his powers, kind of thing. Like,
yeah, that's the big thing. Oh man, and that's part of this book.
How it opens. Oh man,
it works so well. Yeah, because he's just getting his powers, and I mean, this is kind of an important bit where he's trying to track down their cat, or chase down. He's running with his cat, and a big bird swoops down and grabs the cat.
Yeah, like a hawk is like going to take off with the cat.
And so he, trying to stop them, has an uncontrollable heat vision blast that takes out the cat and the bird. So it's like
everything. Yeah,
it's really horrific. And,
yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
And of course, witnessed by a little girl.
Of course, you got to have a Lana Lane, right?
Right. Exactly.
And that's the first thing I thought of too. Is like, oh boy, he's got a Lana.
So a lot of things, so most of the issue is kind of dealing with that, but I love the end. So Superman is approached late at night by Wonder Woman and Batman. And I love how it's portrayed here because, again, it's the issues like it's the point of view of John, and he sees them out through the window, and just the way it's like through the art and shadows, how it's portrayed, like it's really like creepy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just them appearing from the cornfields, kind of.
Right. Well, and even after you get to see who they are, they've got like the dark shadows around their eyes. Even Superman looks scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's totally like, oh man, yeah, I forgot about that last page where they see him, and all their eyes are just white, glowing dots in the darkness.
They don't even look human.
No, they don't.
Superman isn't.
Yeah, and it freaks him out, and he hides in the darkness of his room. That first issue is really what sold me. I was super excited about this series after that.
And then we get the Eradicator.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming at all. I mean, even though they say, like, right there on that last page, so I'm basically eradicated or whatever. And I suppose it makes sense because you just had new 52 Superman dying. So I guess, what happened what happened when Superman died the first time? Eradicator.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it kind of makes a strange sort of sense that the Eradicator would be involved here, but like that's not a guy that I'm like, who we need more of? The Eradicator.
Oh, extra interesting. Something I hadn't really caught before, and you mentioned it with the Eradicator around since we just had the death of the New 52 Superman. So also, Superman starts taking John out with him to do super heroic things, including battling weird sea creatures that, did it turn out to be like a machine or something?
Kind of looks like one. Yeah, like it's some kind of, it looks like it's got like tentacles, but it also looks like it's like part of a spaceship or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But so Super Son has a S jacket, a Superman S jacket. But he's also like flying around with like another regular coat over the top, and he's kind of got regular style jeans, and it's not exactly the Superboy that showed up after the original Death of Superman outfit, but it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I mean, you've got a Superboy here.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense to have the Vindicator and all that. Like, it's an interesting, something I hadn't really caught the first time through.
Yeah.
Some interesting
I
parallels
see
to
where you're going with that is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, I need a little more John Henry Irons in my life.
Right? What happened to that guy?
They had a new 52 version of him, and I guess it flopped because I did a little bit of research because I was doing the SES challenge.
Yeah, you just mentioned that, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked. I was like, have they done anything with this character since the death and return of Superman and how he kind of phased out there? And I guess he was in the new 52, but obviously he wasn't a big deal because neither of us knew about it. And I always liked that character. I mean, like, generally the Eradicator is like the only one that I didn't care much for.
He's such a strange.
Like, he's the most alien of all the Supermen from the reign of the Supermen. And it was really the only one I didn't buy that was going to be Superman. Like in all the other ways. All the other ones, it was like John Henry Irons. He was kind of a spiritual Superman successor. And, like you could see Connor being like a literal heir to the Superman throne or whatever. And then Cyborg, there was always this like, oh, maybe that is Superman. It's a really weird turn, but maybe it is. And he was the one most adamantly kind of claiming himself as Superman, which made it, super interesting when he wasn't. Spoilers. Who knew we were going to get into the death of Superman in this issue?
I mean, there's a lot of battle in this arc.
Mm-hmm. There's
a lot of Superman versus Vindicator battle. Also, they have, what is the name of the dog? They have a super dog.
Oh, Crypto.
It is actually Crypto, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. He's in it.
He plays into it towards the end. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Makes a big impact.
Oh man, and he gets swallowed up by Eradicator at one point, and you're just like, oh, and they let that sit for a long time too.
Yeah. So what's Eradicator's play here?
Yeah, he
like throughout the whole arc, he's got like an agenda.
So John hurts himself. Did he fall out of a tree or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah. So he legitimately hurt himself. So they took him to the Fortress of Solitude, and when they get there, that's where the did you say it was Eradicator? Vindicator? What is it?
Eradicator.
Eradicator. Like Vindicator. That's something else.
I think I did say Vindicator at one point, or started to say Vindicator, but yeah.
But he's there, and his whole trip is basically like
he's a Nazi.
Yeah, he.
I mean, sort of.
Superman's,
like a Kryptonian Nazi.
Superman's son is half human, half Kryptonian, so he doesn't like that. That's what would be the term. Watering down the bloodline or whatever.
Yeah, he's not a pure blood Kryptonian, basically.
Yeah, he's a Kryptonian supremacist, you know.
Yeah, you know.
But he's actually like he's a machine, right? Or some type of machinery that houses the souls of all the dead Kryptonians, or.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like what he's kind of like I don't know. He's not really a clone either. But he's like a construct. He's a Kryptonian construct, so he's more bio-organic than what we're used to in terms of he's not really an android. He's not really a person, but he's kind of like an android person, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we get his whole little backstory here. His origins get explained in here. So, I mean, if you're not familiar with it, they run us through a little brief breakdown of it. Part of what I liked about it, okay, so there's a lot of battle, and that was initially kind of my beef with Action Comics was, I mean, at this point in time, when this was coming out, it was like all battle, setting up stuff that didn't make sense, and I was like, I mean, that's fine, but, you know, I'm not really into it. And I read Superman, and I was like, this is character stuff, like it's you know, it's interesting character stuff, and it's dealing with, I don't know, I just found it more substantive.
This was also my Superman, and I love how it plays on things that I recognize, like Bibbo. Like, who would have thought Bibbo was making a comeback? And you know, like his bar, you know, like becomes a location in this story arc where the whole battle with Eradicator winds up taking it to Bibbo, of all characters, you know, just the Superman fan Bibbo.
Yeah, that comes up in issue 4.
Yeah,
issue 4 has some insane artwork. I love some of this stuff, but even during these big fight scenes, like there's still interesting character stuff going on. You get some interesting stuff out of Superman in relation to like the Eradicator. You know, just stuff about Eradicator's hangups with like collecting all the Kryptonians and stuff. You get some interesting stuff out of Superman, but there's also like John, and I believe later on, Lois, like they jump into the fight and help out and have an effect. Like they're not just there as damsels in distress or whatever. They're not just there for Superman to rescue. Like they're all in danger, and they all like have an important part in the battle.
Right. Well, and they become like, I mean, they kind of become bait, unfortunately, but also as a part of the plan. And like that even comes into play. Like Bibbo's like, the Man of Tomorrow's got a plan, or the Man of Steel's got a plan. And he's basically got Superman flying off to the moon with Lois and, was it John?
Yep. It's John. Yep.
John, okay. Lois and John in like this space capsule or something. And that's my favorite part, is this last issue where they fly to the moon.
Oh, it's so ridiculous because it's not
it's so crazy.
I don't think
it just goes bonkers.
It's not even a space capsule. It's like a submarine or something. But
oh yeah, I think you're right.
So I'm like, wait,
you're right.
I don't think submarines are made.
I don't think that works. I don't think it's structurally sound enough. I mean, I guess maybe if you're flying fast enough, but wouldn't it just like crush like a can?
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, it's silly, and you know, while writing it, they're like, this is ridiculous. Let's do it. Like,
yeah. It's like, it's close enough. You know, like, I mean, people will be able to suspend disbelief enough.
Listen, once they get into Batman's secret base on the moon, nobody's going to care.
That's what I mean. Like, just saying that out loud. It's just like, oh my God, this is so campy. And I love it. I genuinely love it.
He has like robotic bats set up as security on there.
Yes. Because why wouldn't you, Batman?
So the Eradicator shows up there, of course, and the fight continues. And I do like this bit. The art's this is one of the issues, issue 5. It's not by Patrick Gleason, but I do like the art here. It looks nice.
Yeah. When that cover is crazy because it's got like crazy moon robot Batman and Eradicator and Clark, and
oh yeah,
it's just crazy. It's like you could almost see how was it Dark Knight Metal?
Yeah,
you can almost see that coming with this cover. You're like, okay, I can see where this
definitely
came from.
That Batman suit looks so like, yeah, it does.
Yep, totally metal. It's Batguar.
And this, they wreck up. I can't remember if it's in these issues or later, but Bruce Wayne shows up at one point and has a comment about them destroying his very expensive moon base. Yeah.
Yes.
But they wreck the place up. But I enjoy this one a lot because if it's not this issue, it is this issue where Lois, this is where she gets into the fight because she finds Batman's big, crazy, metal-looking robot suit, and she gets in there.
Yep. That's what you're saying. Like they don't just sit on the sidelines, man. Even Lois gets in there, and she's like, "You get your hands off my son, Eradicator."
In fact, a lot of this issue, I'm not sure where Clark went, but a lot of this issue is her and John against Eradicator. And they do well. They're holding their own. Well, the Eradicator like actually absorbs Superman. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so they have to like fend for themselves for a little while he's trying to get out.
And he's talking to Kryptonian ghosts.
Yep. Making a plan with the Krypton ghosts.
Like ghosts? Yeah. At this point, also, I was like, ghosts now?
Yeah. What isn't in this? It's funny because the issue before that, Bibbo makes a mention to Ghostbusters. It's like, all right, they're literal Kryptonian ghosts. They're just waiting for Vigo to show up, and then they get that the emotion goo and just put it on the Statue of Liberty, and boom, take that, Eradicator. Your love keeps lifting me higher.
I blame Ghostbusters 2 for the Statue of Liberty being a weeping angel.
Oh, yeah. You know what? You're probably right.
I just made that connection.
How dare you?
It's not good. It's not good. Yeah, so the fight continues into the last issue, but Superman busts out because he gets the ghosts on his side.
He has a super team up with the ghosts.
They're like, we're tired of this jerk, this Eradicator.
Yeah. He eradicates fun. That's what he does.
Man, the artwork in this one gets crazy too. Because
my God. Because once he's like releasing the Kryptonians and whatnot, it's just one big beat 'em up action scene on the moon. But then like one of my favorite panels is where he just says heal.
Yep.
And then Crypto comes out of his chest like an alien. It's like a chest burster. Oh, it's awesome.
He does. He even then like Superman puts his hand in Crypto's mouth, which is like stretching through the S on Eradicator's chest.
Yes.
And tells him to bite.
He's like, bite down so they can just like rip him out of Eradicator's chest.
Oh man, it's awesome. And then he comes out and the Crypto is laser or heat vision blasting Eradicator along with Superman punching him.
Yes, and it creates a mushroom cloud on the moon.
It
makes a mushroom cloud on the moon.
It's huge. It's huge.
I feel like that's our subtitle for this episode. Mushroom cloud on the moon.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Oh yeah. For sure. Oh man.
Ingestion malfunction. After they like rip Crypto out of his chest.
So crazy. Oh, I forgot about that. Is that the last page? No, it's not the last page, but it's the last page of them on the moon. And it's got a very rather like old school looking Superman's pose, like it's super, it just reminds me of old school Superman. And it's got the big Superman is here to stay. And it's got the American flag behind him. It's just so,
right.
It's good though.
right next to the what is
the
it?
moon lander thing.
Yeah. When you've got I like Crypto sit. He's just got Crypto sitting on top of a like they all have great poses. Everybody has a great pose moment in this issue. Like Lois gets to be Batman and Crypto gets to sit on Eradicator on the moon and Superman gets to pose next to the American flag. When, you know, and like John gets his pose, but it's at his is at the very end.
Uh-huh.
Because like once they get back to Earth, like things seem like they're just going to go back to normal kind of thing where, you know, they're going to just continue to lay low. But then Superman's getting accolades. He's on TV and whatnot. But Superman, he's like, all right, this is my son. Here's Superboy.
Yep. Yeah.
Introduces him to the League.
So Batman and Wonder Woman standing there with Superman and Superboy on the last page specifically, and gone is this. Well, Batman looks mad like he always does, but it's, you know,
he's always mad. He's still like fuming because who's going to pay for that Robat suit,
right? Oh man, I wish I could remember which issue it is that comes up, but that does come up.
Yeah. Well, it's got to happen in this last issue, doesn't it? I mean,
no, because the last issue, so the issue 7, which is technically part of this arc, at least by title, all takes place at like not an amusement park, but like a county fair type thing in the nearby town, and it's them at this county fair, and that's the whole issue. Like, I mean, some stuff happens, of course. It's very much like Superman's like, I won't do any superheroics, but then of course he does, and you know, it's fluffy. It's fluffy, but still a pretty good issue. And I think that's a good breakdown of what.
Oh, here's the line I'm looking at in issue 6 is apologies. He's like, apologies won't fix what the Superman did to my cave.
Oh, it is in there. Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Eradicator wasn't a Superman. He was here to hurt. I'm here to help. Very Superman moment. Very Superman moment.
He's even like, oh yeah, it's super
cheesy.
Super cheesy, like, yeah, depiction of him, and he's even got the shine going.
He's got the big blue eyes and the John Cena smirk.
They just stop just short of like putting the little light sparkle on his eye, you know.
Yeah, or a gleam on his teeth.
Exactly.
if he had his mouth open, there'd be a gleam, crest white.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it sounds super cheesy, but this was a super fun read.
That's the thing. I think what so impressed me about this is because, and maybe I'm getting older and more forgiving of it, or maybe it's just I assume it's just a testament to like how well it's written, is like, there's definitely a time where that kind of cheese would have just totally turned me off of it.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm a Batman fan. I don't want none of that. I want angry Bruce, right? But it just works so well. And when it does go over the top, you're just like, oh my God. But it doesn't like kill it at all. It's just fun. But at the same time, I feel
like this is the place for it, you know? Like Superman is the place for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You couldn't get away with this in a Batman book. I would argue you can't even get away with Batman on the moon in Batman. But if you put Batman on the moon in Superman, total sense. Makes total sense.
Of course Batman's got a secret lair on the moon.
Yeah, of course he does. The watchtower's right up there. It's a hop, skip, and a jump. He needs a Bat moon cave.
Yeah, of course. He needs one.
He needs one. Why wouldn't he? You know, like a treehouse, but on the moon and underground.
But at the same time, like for all its like the kind of cheesy moments, the overly loving homages to old school Superman, like there's still like there's good substance, there's good character work. There's even like that first issue, there's creepy moments and like kind of like when John blows up the cat and like their pet, and when Crypto, who is just insane to begin with, when Crypto gets swallowed up by the Eradicator, there's still these moments of like, oh man, like kind of intense, and at the same time like 5 of these 6 issues is basically an ongoing battle. It's
right. Yeah, exactly.
It's so well balanced. It's crazy that it works.
And it kind of like, I think the fact that a lot of this you're seeing through the eyes of John kind of helps that, because everything is strange and everything is kind of scary and everything moves super fast and you don't understand it all. Mm-hmm. And that kind of feels like experiencing things for the first time through the eyes of a child.
Yeah. Good point.
I didn't know that I probably wouldn't have experienced this book at all hadn't you recommended it, kind of thing. So but you're right. It's great. It's great writing. It's good character development. This is one of the crown jewels of the Rebirth movement, I think.
Yeah, I think DC. So too. And I don't know if it's recognized as such, but I think it should.
I think a lot of people are saying that it's really good, that it's written really well. I don't know if sales numbers will reflect it necessarily, but I know that a lot of the people that are reviewing things have high praise for this series, specifically Superman.
And Tomasi and Gleason they're a good team. And it's like what I was saying on that YouTube video the other day, because I was talking about the silent issue of Batman and Robin, quote unquote silent issue. And not every single issue knocks it out of the park in that series. There's a couple that are like, but particularly I felt the last issue of the series was kind of weak, but I think it's the last issue attempted to do this. Like it had Batman and Robin on the moon, driving around on a, like, what do you call it? A little moon rover.
Yeah.
It was kind of like light, fluffy fun. And for me, although I think it was a different artist who drew that one, for me, it didn't really work on there. It didn't really work on Batman, especially after that run, because it was similarly to this, like dealing with father-son stuff, relationship stuff, and it's kind of emotional moments, but it's still Batman. And even though it was Batman and Robin, we have a very Bruce Wayne style moody Robin with Damian Wayne.
Yeah, Damian's not a Robin that is just going to go out and have fun for fun's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's always about the mission, it seems like.
And I don't remember how far along it is. There's a team up too at some point in this series with Damian and John.
And they have their own book, don't they?
You're right. Super Sons or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. God, how have I not read that yet? I'm so behind on lots of things.
I'm sure that's probably pretty good.
They're like I said, I liked Gleason's book that focused on Robin, and even though it was a moody Damian Wayne, like he still made it fun. So I think a lot of that, not to say it doesn't come from Tomasi, but I think Gleason adds a lot of that. He's got, I think he likes to do adventure,
particularly in a wordless book. I've got to imagine that Gleason is seeing this visually and helping with the art direction, since he does double duty.
Yeah,
on a lot of that.
And I think looking at that issue again for that video recently, I think Gleason's art's gotten a little stronger. I think it's gotten better reading this, rereading this, and then looking back at that other stuff. And it's not that his art's ever been bad, but I think maybe I just got used to it. But faces occasionally come across strangely, or especially when they're like shout. And he's got a very specific style. But I didn't necessarily find that in the Superman. There's even faces he's done in a similar way that didn't strike me as strangely here. So I don't know if he's kind of refining that style or what. But I find his more recent stuff doesn't strike me as occasionally odd as some of his other stuff I've read, some of the earlier New 52 stuff, but maybe that's just me acclimatizing to his style.
Yeah, getting used to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't recommend this highly enough because it won me over. It's hard to, if it can win me over on what is essentially a fairly cheesy, sometimes fluffy Superman book, then they're totally doing something.
Well, I remember when you first started like giving it high praise, it was kind of jarring because it's like you aside from Man of Steel, I can't remember the last time that you were like, yeah, Superman. Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Yeah, I was the guy that liked Man of Steel. Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. I went to the movie theater and saw it twice.
Right. It's like, so very decidedly not what most people think Superman, but yeah. And so, but reading it, this isn't that. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, this is a different take too.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good example of why it's surprising then that I would suggest this and you check it out and be like, wow, this is not Man of Steel.
This is not Ro-Batman on the moon. Well, it is Ro-Batman on the moon, but
it is Ro-Batman on the moon.
I just wanted to say it one more time. It was a real
Ro-Bat Lois on the moon.
Ro-Bat, that's even better. Yeah, Ro-Bat Lois. Yep, not enough Ro-Batmans. Rabatmans, all sorts of robot Batmans.
Oh, I'm gonna have to pick this series up again. I wonder what the current state of it is.
Last I heard, it was still going strong, but I don't know. Okay, do we want to look at some letters?
Yes, let's look at some letters. This is Randy from in the future, and I have a very important message for you. The Grawlix podcast is missing something, and that something is you. Join our letters page segment. If you have thoughts on what we're reading, what we just read, what we're about to read, what you're reading, or you just want to say hi, send us an email to letters@grawlixpodcast.com, and we'll read and discuss your letter on the show. What the devil? What are you doing here? Hey folks, this is Randy from further in the future. And what my former self neglected to mention is we also have a Google Voice line. You can call it, leave a message, and we will play that message on the next episode of the Grawlix podcast. Try to keep it under 2 minutes. Whatever you want to talk to us about it. Ideally, something related to the show. Dial 559-426-6427, or if this helps you remember, 559-4-COMICS. Type that into your phone, you'll be connected to our voicemail, leave us a message, and we will play it on the show. This is getting ridiculous. Get out of my way. This is Randy from even further in the future. And what these two knuckleheads neglected to mention is if you'd rather send us an MP3 recording of yourself to play on the show, you can hit that email. Again, that's letters@grawlixpodcast.com with an MP3 attachment, and we'll play it during the show. Just try to keep your language clean and keep it under 2 minutes. Also, hey Bonehead, did you just shoot our younger self? Yeah, it's cool. Shouldn't we be doing the Marty McFly disappear from the picture act right now? No, it's fine. He was a time remnant. Oh, that doesn't make sense. A time remnant doesn't make sense. At some point, older Randy has to travel back to talk to younger Randy. But if older Randy kills younger Randy never gets to become older Randy and travel back in time. It's time travel, not cloning. We're not cloning and sending ourselves back. We're just time traveling. You don't know that. We could be operating on primer rules. In that case, there can only be one.
Let's go with, we got some response from Peter. We've already mentioned the Superior Comic Show on our, on our in-house news. Well, let's see what Peter has to say. And he's at Superior Comic 16 on Twitter, and he asks, and there's some backstory. So first I'll ask the question. I'll give you the backstory a little bit here after the fact. So why do people claim that you can't like a whole company if you don't like a single movie? Now, I think this is timely for us because we just recently dealt with some hate mail. If you go back and listen to episode 51, we kind of dive into some hate mail that we got on our YouTube channel. And recently, Peter had to deal with some Twitter trolls that didn't like the fact that he didn't like Batman v Superman. And we've been critical of Batman v Superman on this show as well. This person basically, and I think there was a couple of people, but one or two people in particular were calling him to the mat, as it were, or calling him to the carpet or whatever that saying is, for not liking Batman v Superman, and implying that because you don't like Batman v Superman, that means you also do not like DC Comics. Because if you didn't like Batman v Superman, then you clearly don't get, quote unquote, DC Comics. So that's kind of where this is coming from. So why do you think it is that people get like so singular focused that like, well, if you don't like this movie, you can't possibly like that company?
I don't know. See, yeah, and I did miss this bit of the Twitter conversation. And actually, initially, when the question come across, I think I misunderstood it, because this is such a weird angle to take, to say that if you don't like Batman v Superman, then you just don't get Batman or Superman, and therefore aren't gonna like DC Comics. Like,
yeah. No, I mean, I think
because because the Batman v Superman representations of the characters are, I don't know, it's very
strange
polarizing.
for DC fans. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's strange even for DC fans. I mean, that like we are fans of DC.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you're a huge Batman fan, and we've been very critical of what Zack Snyder's done.
Arguably, if you're a big fan of DC Comics, you would be more critical of the movie.
I would think so. I mean, I would agree with that.
And that's not to say you can't be a fan of the comics and also like the movie and acknowledge that they're different mediums, different interpretations. In fact, if you're a comic book reader at all, you should understand at this point. If you read DC Comics or Marvel Comics, you should understand the wild variations in a single character depending on how it's handled by
like
this
Oliver,
creator, that creator.
Oliver Queen on TV versus Oliver Queen in the comics before TV. You know, I mean, like after it hits the television and gets successful, then we start to see art imitating life or whatever, you know. What's successful here winds up translating. But, yeah.
Well, and especially, I mean, that's following up our conversation about Superman just now. The idea that, like, the Man of Steel, Batman v Superman version of Superman is what you're guaranteed gonna get in DC Comics, and so don't even, like, if you don't like that, then why are you trying to read it? Like, that is, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and you liked that movie, but wasn't Superman even a little much for you in Batman v Superman?
Oh yeah, well, because he's just mopes. He mopes. He doesn't do anything. He's just there to be
more like Moper Man, am I right?
And even when he does do stuff, it is kind of questionable. Like, he shows up to help Lois, but even that he doesn't handle very well because, like, she was there while, I don't know. It's just the idea of, like, because you don't like this movie, like, how can you say you like DC Comics is also insane, because that's like, I mean, there's issues of Batman that I don't like. There's whole versions of Batman in the comics that I don't like. But I'm still a big Batman fan because there's awesome, like, different creators are going to handle it differently, and that includes movies, different mediums, especially different mediums.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's hard. That's why I gave you the backstory. Is like, you really can't separate this question from the troll, because that's basically what this was a troll. But I do think it's interesting that there are people so adamant that they need to defend Suicide Squad, or they have to defend Batman v Superman. And like, to the point where they want to get Rotten Tomatoes, like, taken off the internet or something ridiculous, you know, like, no, people aren't just trying to ruin a thing you liked, you know, like, people have different opinions, and that's all it is.
And even the Batman v Superman interpretation of Batman wasn't terrible. Like, a lot of people would agree.
No.
Even people that didn't like the movie would agree. Okay, maybe not, because he's kind of murder hungry, but he always is in the movies.
A lot of people still, even with that, I mean, like, there's a lot of problems with the film, but even with that, a lot of people will say that Batman is if not the best thing about the movie, at least the second best thing about the movie, because Wonder Woman couldn't be gotten wrong kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And even with that said, like, I didn't mind, and I'm not an Affleck fan, but I didn't mind that version of Batman.
Right.
But sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes a bad movie is just a bad movie. Sometimes weak writing is just weak writing. And, you know, if you don't agree with me on that front, that's fine. But it's crazy to say, well, then you don't like DC Comics because that movie is written poorly, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to think that all DC Comics are written poorly. Or vice versa. Like, there's been Marvel movies that I wasn't wild about, but I don't avoid Marvel Comics because I didn't care for Age of Ultron.
I was just going to go there. It's like we generally are pretty positive about Marvel movies most of the time because of the quality. Like they do a pretty good job of being consistent with their quality or just consistent in general, even if it's not always quality. With a couple of exceptions, like we went from the original Avengers movie, which was pretty much gold, to Avengers 2, which is still one of the movies that I'm like, there's good parts in it.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie. It's got good parts.
And it's problematic. And it's problematic not for all the same reasons, but for several of the same reasons that Batman v Superman is kind of problematic for me. There was a lot of obvious shoehorning and which happens in comics too. That obvious shoehorning happens in comics, including comics I like.
Right.
I had mentioned that I really enjoyed the Batman and Robin run, New 52 run, but there were some issues that I wasn't wild about. And some of those issues are because there was obvious editorial interference where a plot line just kind of went nowhere or organically evaporated early, even though you could tell it was supposed to go somewhere. That's exactly the kind of stuff that shows up in these movies that is problematic. Yeah. So, I mean, even if Justice League comes out and is amazing, then that's fine. If it's awesome, I'll be like, yeah, no, that was awesome. I want it to be awesome. But I don't know. People get this weird thing where it's like, well, you didn't like this, you're just not going to like any of them just because you don't want to like them. It's like,
right. I
shouldn't have to try to like something, man. I should either like it or not.
Exactly. And so Peter, you're fine.
Stay strong.
like what you like, man. Like what you like. So, okay. We have some letters that we might just go ahead and save for the next episode. But I've got a news bit that I'd like to piggyback off of this question because I think it's interesting because we kind of got into Marvel versus DC just now in terms of the movies. There has been some rumor going around in the news rumor. So I don't know how much stock to give it or not, but basically, looking at just numbers, like the business model, Marvel Comics does not make Disney a lot of money, and Disney owns a lot of things. And so they look at things in terms of money, like how much is this making us? And, when they look at Marvel Comics, they see that the movies are really the only thing making them a lot of money. So there's been some rumor and some speculation that maybe Disney will do with the comics what they've done with comics in the past, which is why should they publish their own comics when they can just license out the characters, which would essentially mean dissolving Marvel Comics as we know and have known it for years and seeing someone else do Spider-Man.
That's so crazy.
And it's a thing that boggles the mind, my mind, because they've always been there for me. In my lifetime, there has always been a Marvel Comics. Even when they were going bankrupt in the 90s, there's always been a Marvel Comics. So the fact that we're even contemplating, and I can see it, think about Darkwing Duck or the DuckTales. They did kind of a revival of those properties in comic form, but it's not like Disney Comics publications or whatever.
Yeah.
It's done through Boom Studios or some other third party publisher. So what we're talking about here is dissolving the publishing front of Marvel Comics and somehow striking out some kind of publishing rights instead. And I wonder how that would even work. You're like, how would that work? Because like right now, movies are based off of the comics for the last, whatever 20, it's more than 20. We're like 30 to 40 to 50 years of Marvel Comics. So like all the stories that we're kind of mining for the movies, which are, what makes Disney actual money, came from those last, what we'll say 50 years. I don't know if that's true or not. So how would that work going forward? Because if you give, let's say you give Dark Horse the rights to Spider-Man and Dark Horse rights to Spider-Man comics, then does Marvel Films get to make whatever they turned into a story into a movie? How's that even work? I mean, like that opens a whole bevy of questions. So what do you think?
What a horrible mess, because even just in the movies, which is what does make them money, as soon as they started trying to like do the Marvel Universe thing in the movies, like they ran up against, well, this story has Spider-Man and Sony's got Spider-Man right now, or this story there should be X-Men here, but Fox has got X-Men. So think about running into that exact issue in the comics themselves. And it happens once in a while with like the odd character here or there, but think about like the idea of trying to like continue on various storylines from, I don't know, Avengers versus X-Men or whatever, just anything.
Oh yeah.
To where it's like, well, DC has Wolverine right now, but Dark Horse has the rest of the X-Men, and Spider-Man's over here, but Captain America, like, ooh.
I mean, and I imagine that they would go all to one place, but that still doesn't make it any cleaner. Like, let's just say that IDW, because they tend to pick up a lot of IPs. Let's say IDW says, oh yeah, we're the place for Marvel. So now they're writing Marvel books, but they're IDW brand, wouldn't they?
I would think Marvel Studios wouldn't be able to mine from those plot lines. It's kind of like when they bought Star Wars, and then this not necessarily their motivation at all, but they bought Star Wars, and then they're like, none of the extended universe stuff counted, or like is part of.
Oh, you're right.
Our new
and
official canon.
I think they can even. I think those technically would be part of the purchase, wouldn't they? Or maybe not. Maybe because they're book publishing.
Yeah, I don't know. And how would the comic book?
Yeah, I don't know.
Stuff work, because wasn't it Dark Horse who had that property for a long time?
Oh yeah. They had Star Wars. So like, yeah, anything that but it's interesting because they still could put them out. I think Marvel released trades of some of those Dark Horse properties, which they now owned. Like they owned it, so they put out a bunch of trades and made a bunch of money off of it, even though it was released through Dark Horse.
You're completely right. How does that work? Because like Titan Comics has Doctor Who license now, and they have re-released a lot of the stuff that was produced under IDW.
Right. When IDW, when they had it, they were releasing a lot of the comics that were put out through Doctor Who magazine, I think. They were releasing a bunch of classic trades, or they were compiling them as Doctor Who Classic. And then, boom, here you go. You got a whole issue of the Seventh Doctor run, which obviously is not happening currently, and they weren't new. I think they were from the Doctor Who magazine.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. And then how does that translate to comics?
It just seems like what was that? What's that symbol? It's the snake eating its own tail. I can see why, from a money standpoint, Disney would think about doing this, because they could make money if they if they shut down the publishing arm of Marvel and just had farmed it out. But at the same time, eventually, the snake eats its own tail enough, and you don't have stories to make movies, which is what actually makes you the money.
So they say they do this.
Mm-hmm.
and they offered it up to license out if they were smart. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not smart. They could probably make more money if they split it up. But if they kept most of the universe characters, the rights together, would it be DC then that would swing in for that if they could afford it?
Oh, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean that's those
anyone,
are the big two.
Anyone would. Oh man, yeah. It'd be basically like when World Wrestling Entertainment bought out World Championship Wrestling. When Vince McMahon had the opportunity, of course he bought WCW. Why wouldn't he? He bought his competition, and now he has rights to all those characters and all that film library. And yeah, so now when you go on the WWE network, you can watch all the WCW stuff. So if you have Batman and Superman, and now you could have Spider-Man too, why wouldn't you? Or you see some dark, I mean, like, pun intended, but pun not intended, some dark horse just swing in and it'd be like Netflix, now we're making comic books.
Yeah.
Because they've got Jessica Jones and they've got Daredevil anyway. Like they're making a decent amount of money with their partnership with Marvel. So, like, guess what, guys? We're keeping it going.
Man, if it was something like Netflix, maybe they'd finally do a digital comic service, subscription service, right? You just read it all. Yeah. Just read it all.
They'd show Comixology what's up.
Yeah. None of this like, well, you can get these or you can get this issue. 2 years after it's out.
You get the first 3 issues of Invincible, but the rest of it you're going to have to buy.
Yeah.
Nah, and I don't know if that's what it is, but it's something like that. Like you get three volumes and that's it. Even though there's like 12 or something.
From a money standpoint, like I get it, but you think it'd still be worth some type of value. I guess maybe the movies are big enough, but some type of value, even if they're taking a slight loss on the comics division to keep it going because of the gains they're making with the movies.
You would think so. I mean, like that. I mean, I understand because they're looking at their own history or whatnot, but it's like you got to think outside the box on this. Okay, no, you can make more money by farming out Uncle Scrooge comics to Boom Studios, but that's different than Spider-Man. It's got to be.
I love the slight desperation there. It's gotta be.
Yeah. Puberty voice crack and everything. It was like, it's gotta be, man.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. We probably don't have a real answer for that, but I just thought like that. Peter's question actually kind of reminded me that that's a thing that I wanted to talk about on this show.
It's just such a big, like, and I don't know. In the end, maybe be a good thing. Maybe it'd be a terrible thing.
It's a what if.
It is a what if.
Oh, Marvel.
DC buys the rights and they're like, all right, we're going to do Marvel versus DC again, only this time.
Guess it's going to be Elseworlds versus what if. It'll be like Elseworlds what ifs.
Maybe that's what Rebirth. Maybe that's why they're taking so long with this whole like Watchmen thing. That's what
they're just waiting. Towards. Who watches the Watchmen? Is it Spider-Man?
Oh man. Well, maybe we could get some more Tom King on Vision then.
Oh, there you go. I'd be all right with that. I could live with that.
And get some Charles Soule on Swamp Thing again, and
yeah. Oh man, I didn't even think about that end of the spectrum. Like, what would that do to the creators? The shuffling of the deck that would cause there.
Well, and just because then taking this what if trail of DC then bought, if suddenly DC owned Marvel characters or they had rights to use them, that's not even to say DC could like match the output that Marvel on its own currently has, because I'm sure still have limits. Like they can't suddenly like be out like handling twice the creative teams, outputting twice the comics, and not take a huge hit doing it and paying licensing for it. Like, yeah,
right.
Although I guess that's Warner Brothers, and maybe someday we'll worry about that as soon as these Warner Brothers DC movies. They make money. They make money.
Yeah. Well, what even Batman v Superman being the you know, the thing that started this whole conversation, that made ridiculous amounts of money. And a lot of people still panned it, you know, like it didn't even have to be a quote unquote good movie for it to make tons of money.
Maybe the big two will collapse. They've already been eaten up by the big movie studios. Maybe they'll just collapse, and I don't know. There's that too. What if Marvel shuts down and DC's like, oh, I guess we don't have to work that hard either. Yeah,
you know, Warner Brothers is like, oh, this isn't making us any money either.
That set a bad precedent that I'm sure Warner Brothers would be eyeballing real hard to see how that goes.
Yeah. And I could see them going either way, either picking up the properties and saying, hey, we'll write your Spider-Mans, or saying, oh, wait a minute, you're right. We don't need this.
Spider-Mans.
We'll write you Spider-Mans.
All right, come on, we're in.
This is awesome. We're in the Grawlix studios.
Look, it's a plate of Mel's Hot Biscuits. I've heard about those.
Oh my God, check it out. Jesse and Randy's beard oil. I didn't know you can buy that in buckets. Well, that Sam Club's membership is really paying off.
Okay, let's get in their computer and drop this promo.
Okay, let's do it.
We're the Roman Podcast, and in the future, we're sneaking a promo on the Grawlix Show.
Okay, seriously.
Here we go.
I'm Roman LeBeau.
And I'm Rob Gast.
And we're from the Roman Podcast. We're just two Canadian guys getting together once a week to put our own spin on weird stories and trending news.
That's right. You can get our show every Wednesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, the Laughable app, and of course, here on the EMC Podcast Network.
Okay, I think we got it. Put that on their show. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Hang on. While I'm in their computer, I'm just going to update their comic book pull list for the next few months.
What are you adding?
Captain Canuck, of course.
Nice.
This has been Randy. 20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good Grawlix are left? How many stay that way?
And this is Jesse. Live as one of them, Kal-El, to discover where your strength and your Grawlix are needed.
Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of the Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. For more Grawlix podcasts, check out grawlixpodcast.com. Also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, YouTube, electronicmediacollective.com, facebook.com/GrawlixPodcast, twitter.com/GrawlixPodcast, all the .com/all-the-Grawlixpodcast. Grawlix is needed everywhere.
Oh, yeah, all the time. So when you're snapping necks, people will be like, what the Grawlix?
Oh, man, some of these quotes are kind of funny. Okay, so we got that, the big first Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne conversation. Clark's like,
oh, yeah, in the library or whatever.
Civil liberties are being trampled in your city. Good people living in fear. And Bruce says, don't believe everything you hear, son. And what popped in my head is, fake news. That's fake news. Don't believe everything you hear on CNN. It's fake news.
Oh, we can blame Batman for Trump.
Bat Trump, man.
Bat Trump. Oh, the Bat Bart.
We should have known first.
He's a reporter on Bat Bart.
Bat Bart. Oh man.